Let us close the eyes for a moment, remembering God and the Masters. Let us begin with a prayer. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May God protect us all. May we enjoy food together. May we meditate and pray together. May we attain wisdom through our study. May there be no conflict among us. May there be peace within and everywhere. Om. Amen. Good evening and welcome from a new place in Seattle. This is going to be our ashram. I'm happy to see you again. As we have been discussing the series Test of Character, we have discussed about how to deal with people who are criticizing you in our last class. Today we are going to discuss about some more points which can test our character. So the next one is do you easily get flustered? Means, do you easily get agitated and excited? This is also very common among us, that we become very excited when we get a good news, or when we achieve something, we get very excited. And these two, being agitated or being excited, these are the two extreme conditions of mind. In both cases, you are influenced easily by some external factors, and it shows instability and weakness of your mind. Agitation is a feeling of aggravation, annoyance, or restlessness brought on by provocation, or in some cases, little or no provocation. It's normal to feel agitated from time to time. For instance, in response to stress from work or school, you can feel agitated, but it can something be a sign of mental health condition also. One can feel agitated due to stress, illness, grief, or even burnt out. When I was traveling a lot and had been continuously working for Kriya programs, so it impacted my health also. So Guruji always reminded me that take some time for you also, otherwise you'll burn out. And he gave example that if a candle burns from both the ends, it will not last long. So we have to balance our life also. Otherwise, we can feel agitated or we can feel excited. Similarly, as we discussed about the agitation, being excited is normal. But the state of overexcitement is a sign of inner restlessness and instability. This imbalance becomes evident when you notice that the state of overexcitement always create the opposite state of a real downer, means depression or frustration as the next cycle. Sometimes you are very excited and the next in the cycle will be a moment of depression. So it comes in turn. A mature mind means a mind that has a deeper understanding of life and has come to a conscious wholeness. So a mature mind is never attracted to excited states of being. It is always rooted in a sense of balance. What is the solution? If you want to be free from excitement, if you want to be free from agitated mind, simple, calm down the mind by watching your breath and doing little meditation. As we discussed before also, that as our breath slows down, our mind also calms down. So in any time if you feel agitated, you feel restless, or you feel very excited, if you just watch your breath, slowly this condition will change and you'll be more balanced, more peaceful. Now if we go to the next test, next is to test ourselves. So ask yourself this question: are you touchy? In other words, are you oversensitive? Around us there are people who are really very sensitive. Being sensitive also is normal, because we all are human beings and we have to be sensible, we have to be sensitive to others also. But very often this sensitivity, if it is sensitivity, then it becomes a problem. So let's ask ourselves, do we react extremely negatively when someone makes a passing comment on us, even for a silly mistake you made or your choice of degree? So do you react about that? Being sensitive is good, as it is a part of emotional intelligence. But too much of a good thing is also not great. To be told one is being too sensitive means that there is an aspect of one's personality which the person find or the people find unacceptable. If you are oversensitive, then you are vulnerable to any situation. The question comes that how should we deal with this problem of oversensitivity? So a couple of things we have to be careful about it. How to deal with oversensitivity? Write down your feelings. Whenever you feel excited, you feel you're oversensitive, very touchy about people. So write down your feelings. I remember that in my childhood also, I was very sensitive with to the people, sensitive to the environment. Even in early childhood, I found that if people are quarreling in my neighborhood, that impacted me. I was so sensitive. This sensitivity increases also when we do meditation. When we go deeper and deeper, so we also become sensitive. But this sensitivity, because of meditation, is turned out into compassion. But in the worldly life, when we are oversensitive, then it is a negative aspect of our life, and we have to check it. So in my childhood, when I was feeling sensitivity, I started writing my feelings. And these feelings came out in the form of poetries, in the form of some singing classical music. I didn't learn anything. But through that, I was expressing myself, and then it helped me a lot, because you are not keeping it anything into your mind. And when you are not keeping in anything in your mind, then you are much better, because any negative feeling, anything you suppress, eventually it impacts, harms our physical and mental health both. So start writing your feeling. And also what I did, I started writing my daily diaries. Throughout the day, whatever I felt, whatever things happened, I started writing in my diary. So I had many a bundle of diaries, but when I came to ashram, I just got rid of that. So writing things, it also helps us to be free from this issue of oversensitivity. Now, second thing which we can do, we have to figure out what makes us sensitive. Means we have to self analysis, that what is that which is triggering, what is the trigger point which is making me oversensitive, and if we know, then we can work out on that aspect. Third thing, please do not be too hard on yourself. That means do not take things too personally. And this is what happens with many people. Look, when we work in family, when we work in some organization, we are with the people, and it is very much possible. People may comment, people can react in a different way. And many times somebody says something and we take it very personally. Most of the time, things are just told in general way. So if you take things too personally, that means you are oversensitive. And if you're oversensitive, you may be overreactive also. Please do not be too hard on yourself. Take it easy. Fourth thing which we can do, we have to limit our overthinking. Thinking is good. We must think, because it is a process which helps us to find the solution, to find the way. But overthinking means not putting anything into action, but thinking and thinking. And overthinking also means there is nothing but we are creating something in our mind. So think positively, but don't overthink. Another good thing which you can do, think before you react. Very often we see that we are not good listener. Before somebody finishes his statement, we jump into reaction and we start reacting. So think before you react, listen to the people. Another thing which is helpful is challenge yourself and ask for feedback. You challenge yourself and then ask for feedback, because this will help you to be free from oversensitivity. And when you ask for feedback, you will know where you are wrong or where is the correction needed. So it will also help you. Then next, what we can do, challenge yourself. We challenge others, but challenge yourself, that why I am reacting so much. And another thing we can be, follow some patience. Means be patient. Take some time. In modern time, nobody has patience. We all want to have things quickly. We want result immediately. And we want result, we want things to happen in our own way as we think. It may not be possible. So be free from this habit of being oversensitive. Remember, it's not all about you. Realistically, most people are too busy thinking about their own struggles and problems, which means they frankly are not thinking of you at all. Instead of automatically reacting to their behavior, have a think about what they are feeling instead. Means focus your attention from you to other person, how that person must be feeling. And then you will not be able to overreact. You will not be oversensitive, but rather you will be more compassionate. You are not leading character in everyone's life as you're always thinking. So there is a beautiful teaching about it. We spend most of our time in thinking what others are thinking about us. That's not right, because people are busy. So don't worry over what other people are thinking about you, because they are busy worrying what you are thinking about them. So be free from this issue of oversensitivity. Now the next is about our nature. This is also very important aspect of our character, that when we deal with other people, we become sensitive. And now when we deal with other people, we are suspicious. So the next question you have to ask to test your own character: are you suspicious? Do you suspect everything? That means you're not trusting others. Are you suspicious? This is the next question. What is suspicion? Suspicion is the act or an instance of suspecting something wrong without proof or on slight evidence. In one word, if we say, it is called mistrust. Suspicion means mistrust. Another definition is, suspicion means it is a state of mental uneasiness and uncertainty, which means doubt. So suspicion has two meanings: mistrust, and second is doubt. If you are suspicious of someone or something, you do not trust them and you are careful when dealing with them. In Bhagavad Gita, this word has come sanshaya or doubt, suspicion. It says in 4th chapter, verse number 40, samshayatma vinashyati. A man full of doubts perishes. So if you are suspicious, you are not progressing, rather you are going down in your spiritual life. Sanshayatma vinashyati. If you tend to read between the lines of every word or interaction you have, check up on people, or assume people are out to hurt you or lie to you, it's likely you are more suspicious than others, because in the mind constantly thoughts will be there. Maybe this person is going to hurt me, maybe this person is not telling me the truth. So this is just a suspicion, and without proof, without checking. A suspicious mind is always ill at ease and spotting hidden meanings nobody else even considers are there. Because whenever there is suspicion in your mind, you start creating some imaginary things which are hidden, but they are not really existing. So we should be free from this doubting mind, from this suspicious mind. How to improve? Improve your relationship by listening, being curious, asking questions, and not jumping to conclusion. This is more important. Whenever we have suspicion, don't jump into conclusion that this must be like this. Better is to ask question, listen to the other person, then it will help you. Once in Balighai, not Balighai, once in the Karar Ashram in Puri, a disciple who was superintendent of police visited Gurudev, and Gurudev was sitting with other disciples. So looking at another visitor, this officer told Gurudev later, Baba, this person must be a thief, and he should not, and Baba should not entertain this person. Gurudev smiled and said, being a policeman, You are always looking for a thief in others. But I am a monk and my duty is to see God in others. So if you are suspicious, you always have some doubt about others. Like the policeman is always looking for thief. Everywhere he will look for thief only. And I remember once during our annual sales conference, when I was in job, in our meeting, one of the manager complained about his engineer. So my managing director said, he said, Mr. So and so, either you don't keep an employee, or if you keep, then trust him. Don't complain about that this person is like this. So suspicious mind is never good for our spiritual progress, and also it spoils peace of our mind. Yes, there may be doubt because it is the nature of our mind. So whenever there is doubt, we must ask question and clarify it. But keeping something which is not real in our mind is going to spoil the peace of mind, spoil peace in family, and overall it will impact our health also. Now the question comes, how to deal with this suspicion? If we have this habit, how to be free? So a couple of points to ponder. First thing, practice open and honest communication. Remember, we fear, we are afraid of communicating, but we imagine a lot. So it is better to have open and honest communication that will clarify the suspicion, doubt, and bring the reality in front of you. Second thing, choose to trust people. While you are learning to trust others, choose to trust yourself as well. I know one person, this person never trusts, except one or two friends. This person never trusts anybody else. And it shows that this person doesn't trust himself or herself. And if you don't trust yourself, you cannot trust others. So better to choose to trust people. Everybody is not a thief. Everybody is not going to harm you. It is your own creation of mind. So you start trusting people and you will see the things will change. Your suspicious mind will be much better and controlled, balanced mind. A very important aspect of removing this suspicion from our mind, please avoid bringing past to your present. Past is already gone. You are in present. At present, if you bring your past, you are spoiling your present and your peace. That means you're killing your own future, because present moment is going to become your future. So anything happened in the past, forget it and forgive the person. If you cannot, you will always remain suspicious, and your present will not be a pleasant moment, but it will bring more misery for you. So please avoid bringing any past to your present. When you're dealing with people, be in present moment and take decision based on the present circumstances. Anybody who is bad person in the past can transform himself, herself, and be a good person. But again, bringing that past means you are losing the opportunity to go forward, to make your relations better. And the fourth point to deal with suspicion is think logically. We don't use logic, we use emotions. So emotionally, when we think, it's like clouds, nothing is clear. So please think logically. Is it really correct? Is it really uh, right way to think? So if you think logically, then you can clear off the smoke and you can see the reality. Suspicion is never good, as Lord Krishna is telling, Sanshayatma Vinashyati. You'll be completely destroyed if you have suspicious mind. Nobody will love you. Everybody will abandon you at one stage of life. You'll be all alone, and Remember, we live in society. We cannot think of living alone. So live with love. Don't doubt. Don't be suspicious of others. If you have clarified, most of the time I have found that our suspicion is imaginary. It's not in reality. So this is another quality we have to think about it. So think logically now, after being free from this quality of suspicious, now another quality you have to ask. You have to ask next question. Are you self-indulgent? This is also a character we see around us. Are you self-indulgent? What does it mean? Are you allowing yourself to have or do anything that you enjoy only? I will do everything. You get too much involved and you ignore other people. So are you self-indulgent? This is the question you have to ask. So when you are having this problem, what to do? If you say that someone is self-indulgent, you mean that they allow themselves to have or do the things that they enjoy very much. Suppose I enjoy office work, that in the office I neatly, cleanly, I do everything and arrange, organize everything in my own way. And if somebody else wants to do, I will not allow the person, but I will do everything. So this is self-indulgent. It means indulging in one's own desires, passions, even whims, especially without restraint. So there is no restraint, but you just follow your own passion, desires, but ignoring other people. Self-indulgence destroys your future. Whatever you want to create in the future requires that you delay gratification in the present. You need more self-discipline for that. Family members who stay glued to their phones during dinner or lunch lose their ability to interact meaningfully with others. I'll repeat it. Family members who stay glued to their phones during lunch or dinner lose their capacity or their ability to interact meaningfully with one another because you are not paying attention, and slowly you become too much within yourself. Self-indulgence exhausts the energy you need in order to get what you want out of life. A couple of months ago, I met a person and he's a medical doctor. He was telling during lunch, we just keep our cell phones away, not on the table. Even if it rings, we'll not pick up because there is nothing emergency. So when you are taking lunch, you're taking food, or you're doing something very important, even I saw a funny thing. This cell phone has become such a nuisance. It is useful, but at the same time nuisance. In India, I found that some religious ceremony is going on. Puja is going on. The priest is worshipping the divine. He's chanting a mantra, cell phone rings, and then he is talking over cell phone and chanting the mantra. He is not in the puja. He is not totally in the talk with the other person. So this is distracting. So self-indulgence exhausts the energy you need in order to get what you want out of life. Unfortunately, we have moved from a culture of self-sacrifice and self-discipline to one of pure, unfettered self-indulgence. Every day, we are bombarded with advertisement urging us to gratify our desires. But we need to think. And these marketing strategies, marketing people, they just prompt us to be indulged in our habits, our own passions. And we lose our self-discipline. So if we want to be free from this habit of self-indulgence, we need to ask ourselves two questions. Whenever we are into this habit, we need to ask, is it necessary? What I am going to have or what I am wanting to do, is it really necessary? If answer comes yes, then follow it. But most of the time you will find that it is really not necessary at this moment. We can postpone or we can avoid it even. So when you are self-indulgent, your mind works in only one track. You want, and do as you want. However, second question you have to ask is, do I really have to have it? Suppose first comes, is it necessary? Answer comes yes. Then again you ask, do I really have to have it? Honestly answer this question and you will be free from this problem. So self-indulgence. And now next we'll come to the another question. This question is also very common. You have to ask yourself, do you live above your income? Look, when we live in the society, we have to earn, we have to work, we have to earn, we have to pay the bills. We have to purchase things for our daily consumption. But our income and expenditure, we have to look at both the sides. So do you live above your income? Means your income is less and expenditure is more. What will happen? You will end up in credits, you will end up in debt, and this is going to again spoil your peace of life. If you have more expenses than your income, you will not be able to live peacefully. You will be in constant stress of paying the bills. Once Guruji told about a disciple in New York. This disciple had never seen his paycheck, as the salary was deposited in the bank and it was paid for the bills he used to purchase by credit card. So he has never seen money. If you have cash, you know how to manage it. But credit card gives you impulse to buy and pay later, although you forget that someday all the bills have to be paid. But right now you're not thinking, you're thinking, oh, I wanted something, I got it. But once you have to pay with interest, banks also promote this business, prompting people to live on credit. In ancient India, there was an atheist teacher. His name is Charvak. So Charvak had a different philosophy, and I think this credit card philosophy came from that. Charvak, his teaching was yavat jivet sukham jivet ऋणम कृत्वा घृतम पीवेत भस्मीभूतस्य देहस्य पुनरागमनम कुतः. Simple meaning is yavat jivet sukham jivet. As long as you are alive, live luxuriously. If needed, you may borrow and live on credit and in debt. Rinam kritva ghatam pivet. Enjoy the life borrowing money. Why? Bhasmi bhutasya dehasya punar agamanam kuta means if you are dead and cremated, it is foolish to think about rebirth. Who is going to come and repay? So enjoy this life taking loans. Taking loan, you have to take loans. You have to take when it is necessary. But you have to think about paying also. Otherwise, you will end up in stress and your life will be in trouble. In Hindi, there is a proverb. We call it "Jitni chadar ho utna hi pair phailana chahiye." In English, we call it "Cut your dress according to your cloth." Cut your dress according to your cloth. You have to know how to adjust. And many times, our needs are too many, and we have to learn how to adjust with the situation, with the time. When you have money, spend it, no doubt. But we don't have, we have to be careful. That means we have to limit our expenses according to our earnings if we want to live a peaceful life. Otherwise, it is also a flaw in character that if we live above our income. I remember in my childhood, my father had taught me in early childhood. He told that if you have money, use it wisely and never buy anything on credit. It was his philosophy, and he lived that. When he left his body, he did not owe any money to anyone. He never took loans, or if he took, immediately he arranged to pay, but he never lived in debt. If we live above the income, then we will end up in this situation of debt. And how can we remain peaceful? Because all the time there is stress. I have to pay this bill, I have to pay for that. So you have to work hard and at the same time think about saving. In the current circumstances of this pandemic, many people have lost their job. We don't have money. So if we would have saved some money, it would have been very helpful. So now think about it. Some money is needed because in the rainy days, it will be useful. So if you have money, spend it, but save also. It will help you. Now, if we talk about the next quality, which is next check, which is called self-confidence. This is also very common, especially I found in the youth. They do not have proper direction, no proper guidance. So they have to struggle to find the way. So we have to ask the question that if we are strong in our character, we must be having self-confidence. So ask yourself, do you lack self-confidence? If you lack self-confidence, it is a problem. What does it mean? Self-confidence is the understanding that you trust your own judgment and abilities, and that you value yourself and feel worthy regardless of any imperfections or of what others may believe about you. You don't worry about others' opinions. So self-confidence is that quality which helps you to trust your own judgment, your own abilities. You value yourself. Now I'll just give a comparison of our behavior when we are confident and we don't other when we don't have confidence. So it's just a comparison. The behavior associated with confidence and with low confidence. When you are confident, how is your behavior? Doing what you believe to be right, even if others mock or criticize you for it. You don't bother about it. When you have self-confidence, you believe in yourself, no matter what others say. But when you have low self-confidence, then what happens? Governing your behavior based on what other people think. So whenever you are taking a decision or acting based on how other people will react or what others may think, that means you lack self-confidence. Second thing, when you have confident behavior, that means you are willing to take risks and to go the extra mile to achieve better things, because you are always having tendency, you will take risk and you will do or produce something extra. But if you have less or low self-confidence, then you stay in your own comfort zone. You don't want to take risk because you fear failure and you want to avoid any risk. I'm okay with this. So this is lack of confidence. When you have confident behavior, then you admit your mistakes and learn from them. If it is natural, we all commit mistakes. So if you commit mistake, you will admit it and you will learn from it. But if you have lack of confidence, then you try to work hard to cover up mistakes and hoping that you can fix the problem before anyone notices. So this is the change in behavior. If you have self-confidence, then you are waiting for others to congratulate you on your accomplishment. Yes, you achieve something, so you'll wait that others will congratulate you. But if you have less confidence, then you extol your own virtues as often as possible to as many as people. You want to boast, I did this. When you have confident behavior, you accept compliments graciously. How? Thanks. I really worked hard on that prospects. I am pleased to recognize my effort. This is the feeling. But when you have lack of confidence, you dismiss compliments offhandedly. Oh, that prospectus was nothing really. Anyone could have done it. So see the change in behavior. When you have self-confidence, you can achieve whatever you have decided. You can be helpful for other people. But when you have lack of confidence, you remain in your own cocoon. You don't want to take risks, so you won't be able to progress. And at the same time, you have a tendency of hiding your mistakes, covering up, and making some excuses. So we have to be free from this habit. And how to build self-confidence. So couple of tips I can give you. Always try to visualize yourself as you want to be. You want to be a doctor, so visualize that you are a doctor and how a doctor must behave, how a doctor must have to work hard. So in this way, you can prepare yourself. Second thing, affirm yourself. Don't deny, affirm yourself. Yes, I can do it, I will do it, and I have done it. This is the way you progress. Third thing, know your principles and live them. Without living on principles means going astray from here to there. There is no purpose, there is no goal, no target. So make some principles and live them. Another thing to be confident, do one thing that scares you every day. Very often we don't take steps or we don't take risk in our life because we are afraid, we have some fears. So take that challenge, that if you are afraid of something, take that challenge. I will do it, I'll try, and I will definitely do it, and I'll be successful. Also question your inner critic, because from inside you have this criticism, this nature. So you have to face it. Question your own inner critic. That will help you to be free from this lack of confidence. And always set yourself up to win, that I have to do. So not that, okay, I'll do a little bit and see how it works. This is not the way. I have set the goal, I'll work and I will win. So set yourself up to win. Don't just plan for in between or little. Another good thing is to develop self-confidence, help someone else. When we help others, it helps us to build our own confidence also, because we achieve some satisfaction, we contentment and a joy overall. Another thing to remember, care for yourself. If you are careless about yourself, then you will not have that confidence. It might turn into overconfidence. You want to be confident, then focus on the solution. Don't focus on the problem. Don't talk about the problems only. If there is problem, there must be solution. So focus on the solution. What can be done in this situation? This will make the difference. To be confident also, you have to be grateful. If you are grateful, you will be more confident. Another thing is to remain active. If we are not active and dynamic, then we'll lose confidence. because you build up your confidence level by remaining always active. So don't live a sedentary life, or uh, be satisfied or be content in little. Okay, I have done is this much is enough, I don't need anything else. Remain active. If you don't want to work for yourself, work for others, volunteer work, but remain active. A couple of years ago, Roy Eugene Davis, he used to teach Kriya Yoga, direct disciple of Paramahansa Yoganandaji. He visited our ashram in Miami, and when he was giving a talk, he was telling that I am 95 years old, and people ask about retirement. He said that there is no retirement. You have to always work. So at that age also he was teaching, traveling. Even Gurudev constantly practicing Kriya, and every single day he was giving his teachings. So remain active. That will help you to build up your confidence level. Last thing, clear your desk. Many of us have habit of piling the work, and then we start taking things one by one. But best habit is to clear the desk. Means don't keep anything pending. If something has to be done today, finish it today. In our previous class, we discussed Kal Kare So Aaj Kar. Means whatever is there, we have to finish it now, so that you are free from any worries, and you will be more confident to take up new challenges, new projects, new things. If you keep on pending things, keep on piling up work, then you will end up in stress, and you will lose your self confidence. Can I really do it? How can I do it? This question will come. But when you clear the desk, means take the job immediately, finish it up, not procrastinating, you will be able to maintain peace of mind, and your self confidence will be always high. However, so these are some points we discussed today. Now let us take a few minutes for our meditation. Please sit straight. Wherever you are sitting, just keep your spine in a straight line. Concentrate in between the eyebrows. Gently withdraw your attention from the external world. Withdrawing the senses and mind, and focusing in the inner royal path of spinal canal. Inside the spine, energy centers on top of the head, the fontanelle, bottom of the spine, let us begin with observing our breath. Very gently watch incoming and outgoing breath. Don't forget any single breath. Subtle movement Settling the thoughts, little more calmness. Feeling of relaxation. To pacify our mind, let us practice some deep breathing from bottom to top, top to bottom. Very slow, long, and deep breath, regulating our prana. When we inhale, we will feel love within. When we exhale, we experience peace. Inhale, slow, long, deep. Love. Exhale, peace. Inhale, love. Exhale, peace. Inhale, love. Exhale, peace. Inhale, peace. Exhale, love. Inhale, peace. Exhale, love. Inhale, peace. Exhale, love. Inhale, love. Exhale, peace. Inhale, love. Exhale, peace. Inhale, love. Exhale, peace. Normal, conscious breath. Slow, feeble breath. Body's still, mind is tranquil. Take all your attention beyond body, beyond mind, in the inner formless space inside the cranium. Remain in this blissful, calm state. Silently meditate for few minutes. experiencing peace, bliss, and joy. Bring your attention back to the soul center in between the eyebrows. You are free from agitated mind. You are free from any suspicion. You are self-confident. You are pure consciousness, divine bliss. You are eternal child of God. We'll conclude with the prayer for well-being. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all become happy and healthy, loving, noble, and compassionate. May there be no suffering or sorrow. May there be more love, peace, and harmony among us and in this entire creation. Om. Amen. May the blessings of God and the Masters be upon us all and everywhere. I bow to God, all the Masters, all the saints and sages, and each one of you. Thank you all. So till the next class, meditate nicely. Is a simple question. One, does Sthita Pragya help in this case? Sthita Pragya means you are above all these impulses or any bad habit, negative thoughts. You are just a witness. Sthita Pragya means you are only a witness to whatever is happening, whatever is going around. You are not affected by that. So that is the desirable state for meditation. Thank you all. See you next time. Jai Guru.